Hi, Jim. It's Tim in San Francisco. My question is, what happens to margin debt when you die? Does the debt get paid off from appreciated shares in a brokerage account in the estate? Or is there a step up in basis on death such that long-term capital gains don't have to be realized to pay off that margin debt? Or does the margin debt not have to be paid off at death and can be passed on to heirs? Thanks so much.
That's a great question, Tim. And I think it's one that is well worth asking. You see a lot of people, when they get close to death, decide that they would rather pay interest than pay the taxes due by selling low basis shares and living off the proceeds. And that can be a totally reasonable decision, especially if you get a low interest rate on your margin loan. But you're asking a very interesting question, which is, does the estate have to pay taxes on those assets if they're used to pay off the margin loan? And as I think about it, I think the answer is yes, that the estate does. Certainly the debt is not passed on to the heirs. That has to be all settled by the estate. And that can be paid from something besides the securities. If you have cash somewhere else, you can use that, or your executor really can use that to pay off your debts. And then securities don't have to be liquidated by the estate. But I believe if they are liquidated by the estate, then they are subject to income tax in that final year, in your final income tax that is paid, because the step up in basis is for your heirs, not for your estate. And so ideally, you can pay that margin debt from somewhere else. If you end up having to liquidate those assets in order to pay it, well, you didn't save yourself nearly as much tax as you thought you were going to, and you ended up paying some extra interest. Doesn't mean it still doesn't work out well by delaying when those shares were sold, but maybe not quite as well as you thought it was going to be if you can't cover the debt from other sources of cash. Great question, Tim. If you want your questions answered by the White Coat Investor, record your question at whitecoatinvestor.com/YQA or click the link in the description.